This is Andy Parole for Boxing Social, and I'm delighted to be joined by former world champion Paulie Malignaggi here in his hometown of New York City. Paulie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm all good, thanks. Obviously, it's good to hear you doing well. We're here ahead of Saturday night. Anthony Joshua defends his world titles for the first time stateside against Andy Ruiz Jr. What are your thoughts on that fight?
It's an interesting fight. Andy is a backup opponent, but he always comes to fight. He's only taken a loss to Joseph Parker in a very disputed decision, so I don't see a problem with the fight. I think he'll come to fight, and I think he'll make it exciting. So hopefully we get some fireworks.
AJ's a huge favourite going into it. How dangerous can that be mentally for him to try and deal with that, especially with a change of opponent?
Yeah, you can sometimes sleep on the opponent or whatnot, but I don't think Joshua is made of that kind of material. I think at this point he's a mature fighter. He's a mature champion. He's been here long enough to understand that every time he gets in the ring, the challenger is fighting for a world championship, and they will bring their best. So I think he needs to be at his best as well.
After the big talking that Jarrell Miller produced during the build-up to the fight before obviously he failed his drugs test, it's kind of felt a bit more relaxed this week than what it would have been if Jarrell was here. Do you think that's what maybe the fight weeks missed a little bit, more of that tension and that build-up that we would have seen if it was Jarrell versus AJ?
Yeah, it definitely would have had more tension and maybe more headlines. It doesn't mean Ruiz is not as good a fighter, if not better, though. Ruiz is a very quality operator, and his resume speaks for itself. So I think it's easier to get sold and hooked on the fight when you have a great trash talker like Jarrell Miller and you have the back and forth going. But those in the know also know that Ruiz is quality.
What would you say the biggest differences are between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Jarrell Miller?
Well, Jarrell is a bigger guy. I mean, that's the big difference in general. The main difference is he's a physical beast, Jarrell. Ruiz is a bit smaller of a heavyweight. Sure, he's a little bit chubby, but I think Ruiz's combination punching and speed is a bit sharper than Jarrell. Jarrell throws a lot of numbers, but it's not always as sharp as Ruiz's quick speed. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
To work for the rest of the card, Callum Smith defends his world title for the first time. What are your thoughts on Callum and where he stands in the current super middleweight setting?
I think Callum might be the best super middleweight in the world, but there's a lot of big names there in and around the weight. Even at middleweight and whatnot coming up. It's interesting. He's in an interesting position because I think he commands a lot, being the premier guy super middleweight.
If you could choose Callum's next opponent, who would you like to be? Canelo, Golovkin, Billy Joe Saunders even have all been mentioned. Who would you like to see him going with next?
Anybody, any of the top guys would be fine with me. Whoever he winds up with, I'm sure he'll earn his money and he'll fight a quality fight.
How would you see a fight between Callum and Canelo playing out?
It'd be a good fight. Canelo's a bit on the small side for super middleweight, but he's carried his power up well. We saw that in the Rocky Fielding fight, so we'll see. It would be an interesting fight.
Callum's obviously a very big super middleweight. How much longer can you see him staying there before moving up?
I don't know. He's got, maybe he's skinny boned. I don't know. Obviously, he has the size to carry his weight up the weight classes, but everybody's body's different. So, there's guys that look big, but they make the weight pretty easily. It depends. He might have a small skeletal frame or a muscular frame, but he's tall.
And Katie Taylor looking to unify the lightweight division against Delphine Pursoon. What are your thoughts on the rapid progress that women's boxing has made over the last few years in terms of its popularity?
I think it's great. I think Katie has been one of the sparks behind women's boxing, and I think they're getting a lot of hype and a lot of attention, rightfully so, because some of the women's fights do tend to be very exciting, and hopefully they can keep making some good fights so that people can be excited about them. You like to see the solid matchups that get people to want to come to the fights. So hopefully we'll get those.
And Tommy Coyle versus another New Yorker, Chris Algieri. What are your thoughts on that one?
Coyle always comes to fight. Algieri is, we'll see what Algieri has left. He's an ex-world champion who, at his best, is probably too much for Coyle. But, having had a couple of years off and having had maybe only one or two comeback fights, I think, maybe he's there for the taking. And we'll see if Coyle can do that. But if Algieri brings the Algieri that we know, it's a tough fight for Coyle. So we'll see. We'll see what gets brought to the table on Saturday night.
And the big news that broke yesterday, Deontay Wilder announced that he's agreed to face Luis Ortiz in a rematch. When you saw that, what was your news? What was your reaction, sorry?
It's a good fight. The first one was a good fight. I don't see this one being a bad fight. We'll see. Hopefully after that, the winner can get Joshua or Fury.
when you consider Deontay goes on about one man, one champion, one face, etc., does it surprise you that maybe he didn't return to the negotiating table to see what was on offer before facing Luis Ortiz?
How many times do you want the guy to go there? You know, I think they tried. I really think the Wilder side tried, and I'm not saying the Hearn side didn't try. The Joshua side didn't try. But if the Joshua side has more of the negotiating leverage, so they're going to play it in a more patient approach, a more patient way. I know Wilder tried. You know, I just think he got sick of trying. So we'll see. Hopefully they can try again afterwards.
Paulie Malignaggi, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being to Boxing Social.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paulie.